us. You know, if we had thought better, if we were smarter, our world would not be in the state that it is right now, but it is what it is. Also, orgasms, I realized, were an incredibly big deal. It seemed orgasms were the central tenet of life here. Get off the fucking road, you fucking wanker! And there is nothing else on earth that could possibly be exactly like me. And the astonishment and the vastness of that. If you could believe that, then why is it so far-fetched to believe in a God? And that is something I still don't know the answer to. Or ramblings of my own mind and kind of have this super fresh perspective. Hi y'all, welcome back. I'm Elizabeth. This is Reading Riley. I whipped out my special Christmas mug today because there is a apocalypse outside my door. So I'm late this week, but I have a good excuse. We haven't had power for 3 days, and I've been a nomad in a sea of snow and folly and misery. So anyway, I'm back. Today I'm going to be doing a review of The Humans by Matt Haig. So I told you it was coming, it's here, it's now. So if you're interested, keep on watching because this book is amazing. I truly would love to convince every single person, every human being on earth to read this book because it's just so poignant. All right, so let's get into it. So we have The Humans by Matt Haig. This book was published in July of 2013, so apparently I am behind on this, but better late than never because it's just such a beautiful story. It's told in first person past tense. Your main character is an unnamed alien, and he is in the body of Andrew Martin, who is a mathematics professor at Cambridge. So I'm going to read you the introduction at the back of this book to give you, because I feel like it's a pretty apt synopsis. On our unnamed alien hero's home world, mathematics has transformed his people, giving them the ability to create a utopian society where knowledge is limitless and immortality attainable. But when Cambridge professor Andrew Martin cracks the Riemann hypothesis, opening a door to the same technology that the alien's planet possesses, the narrator is sent to Earth to erase all evidence of the solution and kill anyone who has seen the proof. He struggles to pass undetected long enough to gain access to Martin's research, but as he takes up the role of Professor Martin in order to blend in with the humans, he begins to see a kind of hope and redemption in the humans' imperfections, and he questions his marching orders. Mathematics or not, he becomes increasingly convinced that Martin's family deserves to live, forcing him to confront the possibility of foregoing everything he has ever known to become a human. So that's the general gist of this book. I want to tell you a little bit about the Vonadorians. Okay, so this bit, the cool thing about this is that all of the chapters are named by what they're about. So you have Texaco is the name of one of the chapters, Mad People, The War and Money Show, A Moment of Sheer Terror. It's just really thoughtful, little cute titles. The Ideal Castle, Sleepwalking, Heaven is a Place Where Nothing Ever Happens. Just kind of fun, cute. Anyway, so this is the chapter called Where We Are From, and it's about Vonadorians. So just to give you kind of a little bit of a background on Vonadorians, where they're from, there are no comforting delusions, no religions, no impossible fiction. No love, no hate. There is only the purity of reason. They're ruled by mathematics. So there are no crimes of passion because there is no passion. There's no remorse because action has a logical motive and always results in the best outcome for the given situation. There's no names, no families, no living together, no husbands and wives. They have solved the problem of fear because they've solved the problem of death. and they do not die. They've never been at war with themselves because they never place the desires of the individual above the requirements of the collective. So this alien's coming down, and this is his perspective. And when he gets to Earth, of course, his mission is to kill the family of Andrew Martin and anyone who may know any information about this Riemann hypothesis. So he has this really detached sense of what humanity is. All of the species of alien think that humans are angry, full of turmoil, nonsensical, don't listen to reason, and are so detached from the greater good and the greater meaning of life. He's in for a big shock when he comes to Earth, basically. Because yes, humans are angry. Yes, humans do stupid things. Yes, we're selfish and we're greedy and we think of ourselves a lot rather than the greater good. I mean, hello, global warming. It's, global weirding. It's because of us. If we had thought better, if we were smarter, our world would not be in the state that it is right now, but it is what it is. I want to get into some of the things that happens when he gets to Earth. So he arrives on Earth and he's naked, he doesn't speak the language, he doesn't know anything. This first quote I thought was just really beautiful that I highlighted here, and this is at this moment when he's just gotten to Earth. He says, "I was not really accustomed to night. And even if I had been, it wasn't just any night. It was the kind of night I had never known. It was night to the power of night to the power of night. This was night cubed. A sky full of uncompromising darkness with no stars and no moon. Where were the suns? Were there even suns? The cold suggested there might not have been." And I thought this was just a beautiful way to show this character's relation of life compared to mathematics. Like everything in his head is mathematics. This is night cubed. That gives you a good perspective just from the start of who this alien is. Okay, so he's walking around naked, right? And he's trying to just find somewhere to go. And people keep driving by him and yelling, and he, of course, doesn't understand English, so he doesn't know what they're doing. He just thinks they're grading him. So he says, "Humans kept on lowering their windows and shouting things at me above the sound of the engines. Sometimes this action seemed good-humored, as they were spitting oral fluid in my direction. Almanac style. So I spat back, in a friendly fashion, trying to hit their fast-moving faces. This seemed to encourage more shouting, but I tried not to mind. Soon I told myself I would understand what the heavily articulated greeting, 'Get off the fucking road, you fucking wanker,' actually meant." The humans who were refueling their vehicles stared at me as they went inside, trying to be as polite as possible, given my verbal limitations. I spat an ample amount of saliva toward them. As you do. As you do. I just laughed out loud on so many parts of this. I thought it was so relatable and allowed me to step outside of my inner ramblings of my own mind and kind of have this super fresh perspective of human beings and mankind in general. So he learns to speak through an issue of Cosmopolitan. And so then, of course, a lot of his ideas of humanity come from this magazine that we know is just kind of, teenage girl jibber jabber, basically. I mean, not all. I mean, don't get me wrong. So he says, "Also, orgasms, I realized, were an incredibly big deal. It seemed orgasms were the central tenet of life here. Maybe this was the only meaning humans had on this planet. Their purpose was simply to pursue the enlightenment of orgasm, a few seconds of relief from the surrounding dark." And I mean, yeah. I mean, kind of. And to the point where he actually assumes that the orgasm is our religion. And that we erect temples of the orgasm, which I think is hilarious too. He meets the family. He meets his quote-unquote wife Isabel and his son Gulliver, and we come to learn that Andrew Martin wasn't the best husband, wasn't the best father in life, and so the interactions between his wife and son and his family in general are strained. They're very strange, but he doesn't understand that they're strange because he just thinks this is a human life, and he doesn't know the difference. He has nothing to compare it to. So he thinks that humans are just so disgustingly ugly. We have these bulbous noses that stick out. And as he learns about clothing, which is another funny bit in there about clothing, and he doesn't understand how we have to cover up our anatomical parts, but we don't cover our disgusting noses. And he comes to terms with that, I suppose. But at first he thinks his wife and children are disgusting. Over time, he goes on to realize the beauty and the nuances in different humans and what makes us individuals. And I think his perspective begins to change on humans and humanity through simple things like interactions with his son and his wife. And at some point, he goes from having to kill them on this mission to try to figure out how not to kill them. And I won't go through all of the plot for you because I don't want to fully give that away. But the more Matt Haig I read, the more I realize that this book is him on a page. This book isn't about aliens coming to Earth. This book is really about humanity and feeling alienated. And I think that all ties back to his openness and his ability to discuss mental health. And what's the word I'm looking for? It's his standpoint. Like, this is it's his perspective, it's his standpoint, it's his pedestal. It's what he's on this earth to discuss, to help us understand ourselves and our mental health and how that's connected to our physical health and not some separate thing. It's all health. It's health. Anyway, love Matt Haig. And a lot of the opinions in this, such as the art and the music and the poems that he loves, are all actually Matt Haig's interests and aesthetic. And I think like any other author, a part of you is always going to come out on the page, but I feel like his writing really just has so much of him within the words, which I really appreciate. I appreciate the vulnerability more than anything. Anyway, so he meets this dog. The dog's name is Newton, after Sir Isaac Newton, because he's a mathematician, of course. He's never before understood the impact of a pet. Even just like having someone there, even just petting the dog, how it brings him comfort, and he doesn't understand why, because it's pleasure. My husband's working. I'm gonna have to take a break and come back. Okay, I'm back. Excuse my change of setting here. I had to take a little break there. Hopefully you guys can hear me because I am using my new camera, so it frees up my phone and my phone space, which is amazing, but I'm still learning here. And the mic that I was using on my phone doesn't have the same input on my camera. So now I have to get a new external mic for my camera. So hopefully this sound quality is decent for now. Anyway, I moved over here because I rather don't like sitting on the floor. So there's that. Where the hell was I? I think we were talking about dogs. Okay, so at first, Newton hates Unnamed Alien / Andrew Martin. He knows it's not him. But he actually uses his little powers to heal the dog from his pain and give him his sight back. So automatically he wins him over a little bit more. Then he learns the dog's language. So I think it's just one of the funniest bits is his interaction with this dog. So where does it start here? The dog and the music. I didn't quite understand his language just yet, but I sensed he was displeased. He showed his teeth, but I could tell years of subservience to his bipedal owners meant that the very fact that I was standing up was enough for me to command a degree of respect. Which is true. He takes him out for a walk, and Newton's dragging him on the leash, basically. And he says, "That is what dogs like to do, I discovered. They like to run around on grass pretending that they were free, shouting, 'We're free, we're free! Look, look, look how free we are,' at each other." It really was a sorry sight, but I had to admit it worked for them, and for Newton in particular. It was a collective illusion they had chosen to swallow, and they were submitting to it wholeheartedly, without any nostalgia for their former wolf selves. And then I have one more about the dog. Oh, so they start eating peanut butter, and he is Andrew himself, or the alien. He doesn't know what food is either, and he thinks it's all disgusting, but peanut butter is the first thing that he eats, and he's like, "Oh my God, this is palatable." So he gives it to the dog, and he eats a little bit for himself. He says, he gave some to the dog, and he liked it. "Should I try it?" I asked him.
"Yes, you definitely should,"
appeared to be his response. Dog words weren't really words. They were more like melodies. Silent melodies sometimes, but melodies all the same.
"It is very tasty indeed."
He wasn't wrong. So these are the kind of conversations that he's having with the dog. So there's this bit here about human clothes and how he's figuring out how they work. So he says, the way clothes worked was this. There was an underlayer and an outer layer. The underlayer consisted of pants and socks, which covered the heavily scented regions of the genitals, bottom, and feet. There was also the option of a vest, which covered the marginally less shameful chest area. This area also included the sensitive skin protrusions known as nipples. I had no idea what purpose nipples served, though I did notice a pleasurable sensation when I tenderly stroked my fingers over them. The outer layer of clothing seemed even more important than the underlayer. This layer covered 95% of the body, leaving only the face, head, hair, and hands to show. This outer layer of clothing seemed to be the key to the power structures on this planet. So he's trying to understand what clothes are, why we wear them at all, and he goes on to compare clothing to the way humans interact in general. How sometimes we smile when we really want to cry, so we're covering our emotions. We're covering every piece of who we are in order to sustain this lifestyle. So clothing is our way of covering up what we're really feeling, who we really are, what our thoughts actually are on a metaphorical level. And he doesn't understand that because he has no sense of time as far as being alive. But when he starts to comprehend how short of a time we have on Earth, all of the little subtleties start to come out about art and poetry and love. He doesn't understand what love is. So when he first is trying to understand what marriage is, he says, marriage was a loving union, which meant two people who loved each other stayed together forever. But that seemed to suggest that love was quite a weak force and needed marriage to bolster it. Also, the union could be broken with something called divorce, which meant there was, as far as I could see, very little point to it in logical terms. But then I had no idea of what love was, even though it had been one of the most frequently used words in the magazine I'd read. It remained a mystery. Another example. His head was on her knee. She kept caressing his face. So this was love. Two life forms in mutual reliance. I was meant to be thinking I was watching weakness, something to scorn, but I wasn't thinking that at all. So this is his kind of coming to realization that love, having someone to depend on, having someone to care for you, is not a weakness at all, but it's actually a strength. So these are just some of the questions that he's pondering as an outsider looking in. There are some darker bits in this. Of course, we have a bunch of conflict with his fellow aliens among that, and also a conflict arrives where that puts him in a position with Isabel that is not so great. So we go through this with him, and we feel this with him, and even though people around him don't understand, we understand because we understand the context of who he is and where he's from. And from that context, there's just so much to take away from it. And I just think it's so beautifully done. And I do just want to mention at the kind of towards the end of this book, he leaves a note for Gulliver and lists, I think, 97. Yeah, he has this huge list of 97 things that are advice for a human, and for Gulliver in particular. But I want to just share a few of these with you because I just feel like they're important. Number 13, you shouldn't have been born. Your existence is as close to impossible as can be. To dismiss the impossible is to dismiss yourself. Which, for me, that is like, because I struggle a lot. I don't struggle, but I'm atheist. And I want to believe in something greater. And so this, for me, speaks on that as to where, like, well, that's just impossible. But it's like, okay, your very existence is impossible. And he does mention something else in the book about how if you can believe that all of these generations upon generations upon generations of people have come together, and every specific cell within each one of them has come together to create me, and there is nothing else on earth that could possibly be exactly like me, and the astonishment and the vastness of that, if you could believe that, then why is it so far-fetched to believe in a God? And that is something I still don't know the answer to. And I know Matt Haig is also atheist, so clearly this is something that he thinks about too. Moving on. Number 14, your life will have 30,000 days in it. Make sure you remember some of them. Great advice. Number 19, read poetry, especially poetry by Emily Dickinson. It might save you. Anne Sexton knows the mind. Walt Whitman knows grass, but Emily Dickinson knows everything. Number 22, don't worry about being angry. Worry when being angry becomes impossible, because then you have been consumed. Very true. Number 25, there is only one genre in fiction. The genre is called book, which I thought my book friends may be particularly interested in that one. Number 29, if there is a sunset, stop and look at it. Knowledge is finite. Wonder is infinite. Very true. Number 30, don't aim for perfection. Evolution and life only happen through mistakes. That's one I struggle with a lot. Number 40, everyone is a comedy. If people are laughing at you, they just don't quite understand the joke that is themselves. So true. Something I wish I had thought of when I was in school and younger. Number 44, you have the power to stop time. You do it by kissing or listening to music. Music, by the way, is how you see things you can't otherwise see. It is the most advanced thing you have. It is a superpower. Keep up with the bass guitar. You're good at it. Join a band. That was for Gulliver. And gosh, what was this other quote about music? There was another one here. Basically, he said, like, you're just doing math, but you're forgetting that you're actually counting. And I loved that. Let's see, what else? What other slices of juicy goodness can we find in here? If you are laughing, check that you don't really want to cry, and vice versa. Good advice there. Don't ever be afraid of telling someone you love them. There are things wrong with your world, but an excess of love is not one. Oh, this one. One day, if you get into a position of power, tell people this. Just because you can, it doesn't mean you should. There is a power and a beauty in unproved conjectures. unkissed lips, and unpicked flowers. Let's just think about that one for a second. If you get into a position of power, tell people that
just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Love that. As a black hole forms, it creates an immense gamma ray burst, blinding whole galaxies with light and destroying millions of worlds. You could disappear at any second. This one, or this one, or this one. Make sure as often as possible you are doing something that you'd be happy to die doing. Or this one. Yeah. Number 75, politeness is often fear. Kindness is always courage, but caring is what makes you human. Care more, become more human. I mean, when does the amazingness end? It doesn't. It just keeps rolling out with it. When you watch the news and see members of your species in turmoil, do not think there is nothing you can do. But no, it is not done by watching the news. Number 82, if you think something is ugly, look harder. Ugliness is just a failure of seeing. Really like that one too. Oof. Oh, yeah, I'm going to stop there with the quotes, but I just wanted to kind of give you guys just a little kind of glimpse into what you would be in for if you read this book without kind of going into the full plot of it. But like I said, I just can't push this any harder. I love it so much. And if you read it, if you want to read it, or if you have read it, please let me know. And I would love to talk about it. I had read this with a few of my other girlfriends, and we all had very different opinions on this book. So I would love to know what you guys think. Am I an anomaly? Who knows? Maybe I am, but it doesn't change my opinion whatsoever. So that's going to be it for this video. If you're still here, thank you so much. If you enjoyed this content, please consider hitting that subscribe button and the little bell if you want to be notified of my future content. And you guys don't forget that life is short, so read widely. I'll see you next time.